All right. Well, then, to all the people in the chat, welcome to the Draft Archetype Skeletons stream. I'm Sierkovitz, and we're having, as always, Sander Kerstens, aka SL Kerstens, JasonILTG, and Tajoordan, aka Benji, so that you don't get confused when we just randomly scream Benji.
Yep.
Guys, do you want to say 2 words about yourselves before we dive into the All Will Be One?
I draft sometimes.
We know that you
Same.
draft sometimes.
I do that as well.
Oh God! So I have to introduce you. Well, Jason is the sort of the pro amongst us. They are probably one of the better win rate drafters on 17 lands. Are you still mainly doing best of 3 because you think best of 1 is too crude?
Yeah. I mean, I've been playing some best of 1 recently because flashback call time drafts, but.
Oh yeah, Kaltheim was dope. But let's not go into Kaltheim because we don't want to make it about Kaltheim, and we definitely could. Benji is a part of the draft club. Sander just dropped, so that's easy to say who he is. That's the guy that dropped. Yeah. Benji is a part of the draft lab, a drafter extraordinaire. Do you work in the LGS as well as your part-time thing?
Yeah, I do actually work at an LGS, like to pay the bills and everything like that. So that's kind of fun. And aside from that, I've really gotten into playing Vintage over like the last 6 months or so. So I've been having a lot of fun doing that on Magic Online.
Well, at least now you know why he needs multiple jobs to support his hobby of playing Vintage.
Exactly.
I think earlier this week, Benji, my friend Max sent me a screenshot of him being 9-0. And then in that same screenshot, I think like 5 or 6 spots below that, it was you. And I was like, hey, I know that dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I was 5-0 in the Vintage Super Qualifier this weekend, but I ended up 6-2 for 10th. But had a lot of fun.
Sweet.
Oh, well, that's pretty decent. I mean, I would probably be 2-4-6 because I don't drop. Because why would you? You paid for the participation. You play it till the end.
I agree.
And Sander is the person that I started the Skeletons stream together. So we've done it for 2 years almost now, 1.5.
Yeah, think so. It's
a pretty large chunk of time, and he's also a drafter and a streamer. So check out all these people's Twitters and Twitches. And yeah, today we're going to talk about the Archetype Skeletons. Most of you probably already are no strangers to this kind of. I just cut off Sander because I thought that was on the presentation mode. Most of you probably know what skeletons are, but skeleton is a sort of intellectual exercise on trying to build a deck without knowing much about the format. And this is more of an excuse to talk about what we think the format is going to be, test our predictions, and also prepare yourself by knowing all the cards, by thinking about the interactions. And skeletons are sort of like semi-realistic decks that we imagine ourselves, that we could build from a draft. And to make them semi-realistic, we usually limit ourselves to like 0 to 2 rares, normally 1, without any duplicates. 0 to 8 uncommons, again, no duplicates. And then we fill it up with commons, max 2 of each. So we have like those decks that you could imagine being drafted by someone. And then we think, okay, this is what this archetype wants to do. And very often we actually try to build, this is what Wizards would want us to build. Not necessarily thinking that this is going to be the winning strategy for a particular color combination. But obviously, predicting is hard.
I never do that, Paul. I think that's mostly you who does that.
Yeah, and I think it's fair. It's fair to think about what Wizards wants us to do, because by doing that, you can maybe see how it doesn't work in the first days, and then figure out how to change it. And if it works, then you're on the money. So Wizards are usually pretty okay in designing the game. We don't complain about recent limited sets. So most archetypes usually work as they should, even if they are poor in general.
Yeah, like in Bro, right? It was totally intended that a nerf was broken.
Yeah. It was totally intended that most of my decks had 4 colors. That was totally intended. Okay. So yeah, before we go into the skeletons, we have like usually a small preamble to talk about the removal in the format, just to give some times for Jason to prepare actually his skeletons or something like that. So burn. So I found 4 proper sweepers. 1 a mini sweeper, 2 are absolutely busted, and 1 I think is pretty bad, but maybe has some kind of build around uses. So first is Eternal Wanderer. All of you think that this is going to be in top 3 cards in the format?
Oh, I thought this was the unplayable one.
What? What?
What?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yes, I totally agree. This card looks insane.
Yeah.
You're thinking of Nahiri. Whichever Nahiri it is, it's probably unplayable.
Wait, I think I remember the Nahiri being like probably okay.
Oh, this one. I don't know. I didn't even read it. I just read Nahiri and I said, probably not good.
One in
but
Kaltan was good.
Yeah. Eternal Wanderer is just like
What was it again?
an absolutely busted planeswalker. It has 2 good small abilities. And the ultimate that you can actually play on turn 1 as you play it is a sort of a sweeper when you destroy everything but 1 creature from every player, and you choose which. So basically, the opponent gets to keep their 1/1, you keep your 4/4, or the opponent keeps their creature with pacifism and you keep your best thing. Also, Eternal Wanderer can only be attacked by 1 creature, so you basically almost always will be able to defend it after it ultimated. And if you're ahead and you don't need to Wrath, then you just can make 2/2 Samurai with double strike or exile something. So blink something. Then we have the White Sun's Twilight, and this card is pay 2 white and an X, and you gain X life and create X/1/1 colorless might artifacts, which are having toxic and they cannot block. And if X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures. So you basically play it for 7, you wipe the board, and you get 5/1/1 mites with toxic. That should usually seal the deal if that's the situation. I think an interesting card for this format, I don't know if in best of 1, but in best of 3 for sure, this is going to be something you want to speculate on to have for your sideboard if you're playing red. Hazardous Blast deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control, and creatures your opponents control can block this turn. This can be good in aggressive strategy generally, like by at some stage building up a bit of a board and then just swinging for lethal once you play it. But it also can be good against decks that will generate a lot of those 1/1 mites just by killing a bunch of their creatures and still hitting for some damage because nothing can block.
Yeah, there's
And
there's another uncommon that does that too, right? Like there's a red, green, gold uncommon that deals 1 to each creature.
Yeah, the creature, the 5/5 vigilant creature in red that costs 1 less for each creature with oil counters, so that you can basically play it for like 4 mana as a 5/5 vigilance that pings everything that the opponent controls for 1. This one has an advantage that you can also play the black combat trick that gives a death touch in response to the trigger of the enter the battlefield ability, and basically turn it into a 1-sided Wrath or Plague Wind, as you would call it. So yeah, that's another option. And then we have the Filigree Silex. That's a 2-mana artifact. It can put oil counters on itself, and then you can sacrifice it to destroy each non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of oil counters on the Filigree Silex. I can guarantee you that if I play it, I am going to try to destroy things of equal and lesser value, as I always do with Blast Zone, and then go, oh, oops, shame concede. But if you read the cards that you play, you know that it's equal, so you can at least selectively remove several of the permanents from your opponent. And you can put 10 counters on it and just go to the face for 10 if that's how you want to play this game.
Notably, you can also remove from other permanents. So like you could have like 4 on this and like 6 on other things.
Ooh.
Maybe you build around.
So that 10 damage to face is actually going to be a mode then.
Maybe. Fancy power tag.
It might also be a bit too bad, like on its face, for the like synergy oil counter thing to work out, but who knows?
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. But maybe there will be some kind of a turbo Filigree Silex build around kind of deck where you just put like 2 counters on it, or with the 3/2 that puts 2 counters on something, and you ramp it into the 10 damage very quickly and realize that you still need to do 10 more.
Well, maybe you can like untap it in response to the trigger, and then Do it again.
Ooh, is there something that can untap artifact? I don't think so.
Wait, no, the sacrificing is a part of the cost. So.
That's too
Yeah.
bad.
No, yeah.
Too
Well,
bad.
there you go. All the plans
Wasn't meant to be.
already shattered.
Too bad.
So then, just like a brief look at the damage removal. We have roughly 21% common creatures with 1 toughness. So Whisper of the Dross, the 1 mana instant that target creature gets -1/-1 at the end of turn, and then you proliferate, will kill some things. You have to keep in mind that also there's 10 cards that make the mites, which are not calculated in that thing. And there's also 5 cards that make 1/1 goblins. So there's going to be targets. Obviously, the trick giving -1/-1 is better than the one that gives 1 damage, because obviously you can play it post combat, you can play it during combat to turn a trade into a trade for a 1 mana instant that also proliferates. So there's plenty of ways of abusing it, but on its face value, it does kill roughly 21 to commons and 21% commons and 23% of the uncommons. It barely touches any rares, but that's to be expected. Usually the rare creatures and mythic creatures are bigger than 1 toughness, because you don't want to play something that is rare that dies from a heavier gust of wind. So interesting part of this format is that there is no dedicated spell that deals 2 damage. I mean, yes, there is, but it's also sometimes deals 4, therefore it's not in this statistic. But around half of the commons and like 45% of the uncommons have toughness 2 or less, and a quarter of rares will be killed by 2 damage. You will have some spells that deal diverse amounts of damage, and these spells, like for example the bite spell, or there is the new version of Flametongue Kavu, which I think quite often will deal 2 damage. These will deal with like half of the lower rarity cards and like a quarter of rares. And this is actually quite low from the historical point of view. There's been formats when there was around 55% of the commons that would be killed by a 2 damage spell. So that's a bit less.
Thanks for the raid, the 4. Welcome, everyone.
Hey, the 4, thanks for the raid. Yeah, I when I read this thing, I can't see the chat.
I can imagine, Pawel, which is why I'm doing the honors here.
Yeah, I just want to excuse myself and look like the cool guy that was just a bit sloppy. We have a Volt Charge, which deals 3 damage to any target. That includes face, which is nice, and also it does proliferate after everything is said and done. So probably a premium red common, if I would be guessing. That kills more than 3/4 of creatures at common. Actually, there is nothing bigger than 5 toughness at common, which is pretty atypical. Normally, we had some kind of a version of the Honey Mammoth in the set, and it's not the case in this one. So nothing has more than 5 toughness at common level. Then we have a bunch of rares and a couple of uncommons that have that higher toughness than 5. But 3/4 will be killed by the 3 damage spell, and it's also like 64% of uncommon creatures and 40% of the rares, which is actually low. I mean, there's a bunch of rares with toughness 4 and more than it was in Bro. So, for example, in Bro, it was around 50% of the rare creatures and mythic creatures had a toughness above 3. So it points towards a format where rares are going to be heavier to deal with unless you're playing white, and which has a bunch of unconditional removal. So it might be interesting to see how it plays out. Then we have 4 damage spell, and it's 4 damage spell. It's a -4/-4 spell in Drown in Ichor for 2 mana, but it's sorcerer speed, so it won't be able to be so potent as a combat trick. But still, 2 mana for a -4/-4 is a really good value. And as all the 3 previous spells, it somehow proliferates on top of everything. They just tagged along proliferate to every removal. You kill 93% of the commons, 83% of the uncommons, and around 2/3 of the rares and mythics. So there's like a big contingent of rare and mythic creatures with power 4, because you just jump from 41% to 68 all of a sudden. And the last, there's a couple of spells that deal 5 damage. Rebel Salvo is the good one at uncommon for 3 mana at instant. The other one is 5 mana, I think, at sorcery, that also can kill an artifact. So can possibly kill several more things than Rebel Salvo, but I didn't calculate it. This also weirdly has affinity for equipment, so it might actually cost 2 mana in some situations. Oh, and also the permanent that is targeted by Rebel Salvo loses Indestructible, which is actually not nothing in this set, because there is 4 mythic gods that can get Indestructible. So yeah.
Also Thrun.
If you... Deb?
Also, there's like a Thrun troll thing that has Indestructible or something.
The 3/1, you mean?
That's the 5-drop rare, the Thrun.
Oh yeah.
There's also the black trick.
3/1. Yeah, the 3/1 can get Indestructible as well, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
maybe Ascended or something like that. Yeah.
And
I guess that Thrun has like hexproof to not green anyway, so that's not relevant.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the Thrun. Yeah. That's you need to change the color of Rebel Salvo into something else. There is also the trick that gives Indestructible, but it also gives hexproof. So
is that the case?
Yeah, there's the hexproof Indestructible trick. It's like
it is both.
Yeah, it's X green, hexproof, Indestructible.
I was pointing towards the black. The black trick gives that touch an Indestructible.
So oh yeah, there you go. There you go. Okay, that wins with that trick. Okay.
Yeah. The random equipment hate on the red 5 damage spell that made me scared a little bit as a Boros player, to be honest.
I mean, is anyone playing that spell anyway?
Yeah, maybe not, but it feels very punishing though.
If they would have spent 5 mana to kill an equipment that came in and made a 2/2, I'm down.
Yeah, true, but if they're killing your 5/5 in the meantime, that sucks though. But yeah, there are so many proliferate and poison attached to spells. I'm wondering if most games won't just end after you cast 10 spells. 10 spells, opponent is dead.
That's why 1 mana toxic creatures are the prime property, because you can just deal that one and then proliferate the rest of the way. I think that, it's just very concentrated in removal. And actually, when you try to draft a deck that heavily relies on proliferate, you realize that it's not that easy.
Also, to be fair, like, how many spells do you cast in like a normal game of Limited? It's not actually that much. Right?
No, like 7, 8, I think.
Yeah,
depending on the deck. Some decks will be more spell prolific, but usually I know that it takes me like 3 games of a draft to complete the play 20-something spells quest. So that's roughly the number, I guess. Right. So yeah, these are the numbers from the previous format. So it has actually fewer of the 1 toughness creatures than oh wait, can I do it? Yes, I can. Fewer 1 toughness creatures than the previous couple of sets, but keep in mind that there's a bunch of those mites and the goblins that are created as tokens that are not calculated into this. I did look at the stats of the 4 Mirrodin creatures. So these are incorporated in those statistics. Also, there is 48% of the 2 toughness. I told you that this is lower than in some other sets. I think Streets of New Capenna was particularly like 61% of the creatures were 1 or 2 toughness in that format, and now it's only 48. So that's a big difference. Obviously, part of the reason was that because of the shield counters, those creatures with shield counters usually have low toughness. And then it quickly catches up with the bunch. 77 have 3 and less. And it actually overtakes everything. 93 have 4 and less. So there's very few big things, and there is fewer small things, which means that the bulk of the things are 3 and 4 toughness, which is something to think about, that there is more 3 and 4 toughness creatures than in most formats in this one. What else? We have a couple of those conditional removals. There's Hexgold Slash, 1 mana. It deals 2 damage to target creature, or if it had Toxic, it deals 4 damage to it. And that changes quite a lot, because if you see here, 48% of the creatures have toughness 2, 24% of the rare creatures, 46 of the uncommon. And if you look at the Hexold Slash, you have 59, 59, 34. So roughly 10 percentage points more creatures. It kills 10 percentage more creatures at each rarity level than a 2 damage spell would do. So that's quite an improvement on 1 mana shock in terms of how to deal with creatures. Obviously, this thing does not go to face. Then we have Anoint with Affliction, which, if you have completed, kills anything for 2 mana. But if you don't, it only can kill creatures with mana value 3 or less. And this kills around 2/3 of the commons and uncommons and roughly half of the rares, which still, even before you get the corrupted ability, still is roughly on par with Go for the Throat from Brothers War. So that's how many things it kills. Obviously, Go for the Throat could kill some really big things for 2 mana, but this one in the later game probably can kill anything or even exile anything. So I think that common, this card looks better than Go for the Throat, which is quite impressive, I have to say. It will be obviously a very highly picked card in drafts. So it's one of the reasons to be in black, but probably it's also one of the reasons maybe to avoid black at least a bit in the beginning of the format, because people will be jumping on that card as a first pick, and then they will continue going into the black, and you might be cut off on all sides because that will be open quite frequently. One weird removal is Gleeful Demolition. That's a 1 mana sorcery, destroy target artifact. If you control that artifact, create 3 1/1 goblins. So it can be technically 3 1/1s for 1 mana, but you have to kill some kind of an artifact that you have. But on the opponent's side, roughly 1 in 6 creatures are artifact creatures in this format. Plus, you can kill some non-creature artifacts. So there's a bunch of equipment floating around. I counted 27 common and uncommon non-creature artifacts in the format, but keep in mind that 5 of them are skull bombs, which probably you won't be able to destroy because you can always sack it for 1 mana to draw a card. And a bunch of them are maybe like equipment that already did something because they created a 2/2 on entrance because they have 4 Mirrodin mechanic, and it won't work so well. And we have a Carnivorous Canopy, which kills artifact creatures, but also creatures with flying. And this is basically the difference that you see between Gleeful Demolition and Carnivorous Canopy. There's a bunch of creatures with flyings that you can kill. Roughly 30%, maybe like roughly 31% of the creatures will be targeted by this one, which is probably not enough to play at main deck, but it also can deal, for example, with enchantment removal, which is quite abundant. And there is not much that can deal with enchantment on common level. There's a couple of those very clunky unconditional removal that cost 6, but you can pay 3, and then they destroyed a non-creature permanent. And maybe these will be playable because there will be a lot of enchantment removal floating around. But I'm still not sure if 6 mana is not too steep for that format in terms of its speed. Yeah, there we go, the removal part. Now someone can talk about colors, and I think that this looks like a signature Jason slide, so I'll leave the floor to them.
First of all, to address chat, I am very excited to use Gleeful Demolition to blow up my own equipment. I think like that removal spell secretly, like, hits a bit more things because it also hits your stuff.
For sure.
Very profitably. But yeah, anyways, big picture, white. White seems like one of, if not the strongest colors this format to me. It's just very focused. It's very aggro, very like lots of good toxic stuff, lots of good aggressive tools. Like you have good aggressive removal with like Charges of the Mites being split card, make 2 mites, or like kill something roughly, or deal damage equal to number of creatures you have to something. And Planer's Disruption just being like arrest, except 2 mana, and like it hits artifacts, creatures, or planeswalkers. Like one of the more pushed pacifisms we've ever seen. Like can't block, can't attack, can't activate abilities. Still can crew vehicles though, notably. So it's, and it has the normal pacifism downsides of you can sacrifice the creature, you can bounce the creature, but like still just 2 mana hitting basically anything is pretty busted. And then you have like just a lot of good aggressive cards. Like Basilica Shepherd is just 5 mana 3/3 flyer that with the 2 mites. That's basically just what's it called? Diagraph Horde from Midnight Hunt, right? Like you a 5 mana like sizable body that comes with some like aggressive aggressive bodies that can't block, right? But like this time the Shepherd is a 3/3 flyer instead of a 3/4 ground creature, which seems kind of nuts. And then you have like some like tricks, like Zealot's Conviction is like a flash +1/+1, but if you have Corrupted, it gives +2/+1 first strike for some reason. And like even like you can use Zealot's Conviction early to win a combat, and then later after you turn on Corrupted, it'll like turn into giving +2/+1 first strike just passively as well. Like it doesn't like just give the first strike on like landing or either. So like it's like Military Discipline, except like so much better. As long as you can turn on Corrupted. Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait the first time I'm going to play an instant proliferate spell in combat just to give it Corrupted and just do it the second time with the same card, basically. I mean, that would be so awesome.
Yeah. And then like Complete Devotion is another pretty good trick. It's like 2 mana, 1 on the white for instant +2/+2. But if the creature is toxic, you also draw a card. So just like eat your creature, draw a card. Like we've seen Majestic Metamorphosis, Suit Up, things like that. Like been those have been really good in the past. This is just a really good trick as long as you have toxic creatures. And there's a lot of good toxic creatures like Crawling Chorus, 1 mana 1/1 toxic. When it dies, make a mite. Dualistic Deep Faith, 2 mana 2/2 toxic 1. On your turn, it has first strike. And Flensing Raptor, 3 mana 2/2 flyer, so Windrake with toxic 1, and ETB, like you get to jump a toxic creature and give it +1/+1 until end of turn.
Yeah,
just
no,
like
I mean,
yeah,
I don't want to see the curve out of the like turn 2, the 3/1 with toxic 2, turn 3, the Raptor, jump the 3/1, 2 counters, and next turn they are almost guaranteed to have Corrupted, basically, because the flyer will do his job. I mean, it's just like it's going to be a lot of growth tests for this format when you are not having early interaction, I think.
Yeah. Also, one thing to note, it feels to me like the white decks, the white commons at least, don't point to killing with poison counters so much as killing with damage and like having toxic being a benefit on the way. Like, most of these like white toxic creatures are just toxic 1. Like green has like toxic 2, toxic 3, but like white only really has toxic 1. And like the payoffs for toxic in white, like there's no proliferate in white really. So it's just like Zealot's Conviction turning on when you have Corrupted. So like, you know, getting in those first 3 poison counters is nice. Or like Complete Devotion carrying that your creature just has toxic. Like it doesn't seem like white cares as much about straight up killing with poison as so much as like benefiting from things having toxic in the first place.
I think that would be like sort of maybe a split decision tree when they would definitely want to get the Corrupted online as quickly as possible, and they have good tools to do that. I think the best tools of any color to quickly do the Corrupted. But I think that then they will have like an option of either finishing with the regular damage because you you amplified some effects because of the Corrupted, or you can go wide with mites, and that's another like way when you can actually win with the toxic by playing those small mites, and that's basically it.
Yeah. Mites is definitely a way to get there on poison as opposed to just like getting there on damage, because like all the other things like toxic 1, but like mostly has 2 power. So like if you're hitting with that, you're probably just killing with damage anyways, right?
Yeah. No, it's going to be like very close race in both life counts and toxic count, and probably like it's easier to kill with damage from that point, I guess.
Yeah. At that point, proliferate almost functions like a sort of reach, right? So you got them on 9 poison counters to life, let's say, at the same time, and then proliferate is like reach.
Yeah.
That functions.
Yeah, maybe like white-blue. Sometimes you will make like the deck that has white things for dealing the poison and blue things to proliferate later in the game or something.
Or
you
white
can.
green. Like green has some
Yeah.
proliferate too, and green also has like big toxic stuff, like the 2-mana 3/1 toxic too.
Yep.
Right. Should I go to the next one?
Yeah.
Maybe general question. Do we think like toxic? We're going to make a lot of toxic kills. What is our current impression?
I think it depends a lot on like the deck. I think there will be a lot of like poison kills and a lot of regular damage kills, and like I think it'll be kind of split. Depends on your deck.
I do think board stalls will be more rare. Do you feel that too? Due to all the proliferating and the random poison counters attached on certain spells, that at some point in time you will just die?
I mean, I think board stalls that go forever might be more rare because of that, but I think board stalls actually will be more common in the set because there's like 10 cards that say vigilance or something, like way more than we usually get.
Yeah, there might be also like those weird board styles when you actually have an advantage on board, but they have like 3 mites, so you cannot commit too much. So you have to stare at those stupid mites. You know that they cannot block, but you know that you cannot overcommit because they might flash in 2 extra mites at the end of their turn, and that's it.
Yeah.
They
Midnight
might
Hunt
flash
style
in
board
2 more
stalls.
mites. Yeah.
I do think that the mites will kind of create those weird aggressive board stalls like Midnight Hunt with the decayed stuff. I think that will be relevant, and that the board stalls will be pretty common in like a weird kind of like tense way.
Yep. Curious.
Good. Let's move to blue, which I have to say, I mean, I watched a lot of the things. I built the skeletons in blue and whatever. I still think that I don't get like the character of blue. I think that it's like split between a couple of things. That's my feeling about it. So maybe you can guys talk me through your vision of the color.
I want a deck with 5 prologues to Phyrexia in it, and just kill my opponent that way, like churning to my deck. Yeah.
Yeah, but blue to me just seems like you have like good defensive bodies with like Glistener Seer as a 1-mana 0/3 that like scries, or Gitaxian Raptor as a like 3-mana 1/4 flyer that has like Mistwalker stats, kind of where it can like, you know, pump itself +1/-1, and or like Mildweb Strider, like a 5/5 vigilance kind of where you're like, it looks kind of awkward because it's a vehicle, right? But your opponent can't really attack into it if it has an oil counter because of like threat of activation of blocking with it. So so I think it will play out pretty well defensively. And then, you know, just sitting back behind those defensive bodies and like casting like control spells, like, you know, counter spells, proliferating, card draw, things like that. Like, I don't know. It just there's like a small instant seed package with like prologue to Phyrexia, bring the ending, and experimental augury. That seems kind of interesting to me.
Just like maybe. For me, it like sort of misses out on a cheaper bounce spell that is at instant. There is the uncommon one. There is the uncommon one, and there is the Skull Bomb. And I don't know. This slide doesn't have what I found my favorite blue creature. I hope that it will be good and not just rubbish. The 1/3 that can become a 3/3 unblockable at some stage of the game, because I think it's defensively good enough, and then at some stage it becomes a good clock as well.
Yeah, my problem with that card is like it's a really bad top deck, right? And like to some extent, so is Glistener Seer, but at least that one scries instead of like just being a blocker as a top deck. And like the fact that it's 1 mana versus 2 mana is big, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that definitely is the case.
Yeah, what do you think of the Watcher, Jason?
Is that the one
flying vigilance dice draw card? Yeah.
I mean, it's good against X1s. I don't know. It feels fine, but just doesn't quite do enough, I think. It's like filler plus, I think.
Interesting.
How much better would it be if it was on the ATB? Oh, it would be a lot better, because like then it's not a bad top deck, right? Like if it was on ETB, like it doesn't have the awkwardness of death triggers where like you have to like chump with it to get something. Like it doesn't, where it doesn't do anything immediately, or like if they like remove it with exile or a pacifism, it like just doesn't do anything.
But Jason, can I interest you in playing the 1 mana red removal spell on it that
I
destroys
mean,
an
yes,
artifact?
you can interest me in that. Like it definitely has synergies like that. But it's definitely I don't think it's like I don't think it's similar to, like, you might look at it and say like, oh, spirited companion, but I think it's a lot worse.
No, that's definitely not it. Although 1/1 pings in the sky, 20-turn clock, you can't ignore that kind of thing for more than 20 turns.
I mean, sure, but I feel like blue with like has a lot of proliferate, and so probably will. I think blue decks will be winning with poison like the most out of all the colors. Maybe.
But they have 0 toxic creatures.
Yeah, you
Well,
add
well,
some
yeah.
white creatures to it.
Well, like, so there's 2 blue the blue-green uncommon and the blue-black uncommon. Both are toxic
Okay, yeah.
flyers. And then there's Prologue to Phyrexia, and there's also just like whatever your other color is might have toxic in it, right? Like,
Yeah, no.
black is plenty of toxic,
but,
green has plenty of toxic.
But I sort of led you to the conclusion that it might be a support color for the toxic decks, basically. But toxic has to come from somewhere else.
That's a good way to put it. Like, blue feels more like a support color, but like it seems like it has like pretty strong support pieces.
What do you think about the Charm Sleep version from this set?
I'm not that excited for it, but like I think it's probably not unplayable.
It proliferates.
I like it more than most of these effects.
I think it aligns well with the format as well. I don't think that there's much of the incidental enchantment removal, which is good.
Yeah,
there's the white creature that like bounces a creature, like bounces a thing you control, right?
Yeah.
I like that card a lot. That white creature.
Yeah,
I think
that has a ton of applications.
Yeah, it's like geothermal Kami from Neon Dynasty.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, and there's like a 3/2 that can destroy an enchantment at sack or something. Some fungus
like to
thing
use it
from
with
green.
For Mirrodin equipments.
But,
but it's a little off topic for blue.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next color, which is black.
Oh yes,
Benji.
I made this slide. I mean, it was a bit on the fly. I think that when you look at black, the things that stick out are the 2 common removal spells. I think that as we were kind of discussing, the 2 mana instant for the 3 converted mana cost or less is probably going to be better. Although I could see early on a lot of people taking the other one higher, and maybe this 2 mana one going a little later than it should. I could be wrong, but I could just see people reading the 2 cards and thinking that. But I also think that there are both a couple different aggressive toxic creatures in the 2-drop slot, which I thought was kind of interesting. I like the Plague Stinger because I played Scars of Mirrodin, so it's just a throwback to that era for me. And the other thing that I kind of noticed was the combination of like using Corrupted. You see this in the uncommon too, the one that has Corrupted, you can sack artifacts to draw, but there's a bunch of stuff that allows you to leverage like your poison into like grindy card advantage. Both the card that gives poison draws 2, the card that comes back from the graveyard with Corrupted, and then you can just the Skull Bomb is just a classic like recover from invasion, just like 4 mana, return a creature, draw a card. So I think that this is something that could work well with the blue as a support color, and I could see it working well with green, but I think that black just kind of has a lot of good cards and a lot of toxic synergies, but I didn't feel super strong on black. So if y'all have any disagreements or anything to add, please do.
No, I was wondering, like, how do we value the draw Skull Bomb compared to some of the other Skull Bombs? I like it more.
I like the blue one the most.
I like the blue Skull Bomb the best, followed by maybe the white one.
I think I like Dross more than the white and green ones that are just kind of like sorcery speed combat tricks.
Yeah, that one. Those I don't like.
Jumping a thing is like quite powerful, I think, for the white one. Like that feels pretty threatening.
I like the jump more than the trample.
I like the black one if I have Death Touch. The green one, sorry, the green one if I have Death Touch.
I don't know. I just don't feel like you need something like Draw Skull Bomb.
I mean, we will see. I mean, worst case scenario, you can just cycle it.
That's true.
So that's something that can be done with it.
Yeah. I kind of like it.
One note about blue that I thought of just now. Sierkovitz, you're saying like there isn't or I forget, maybe it was you, maybe it was someone else. I was saying that like there isn't an instant speed blue like bounce ball, right?
There's the uncommon one I said.
Yeah. But like also like there wasn't one in Dominaria United either, right? Like blue in the set feels kind of similar to blue in Dominaria United to me, except it doesn't have Tolarian Terror, which makes it a lot worse. But still,
it sort of does. The uncommon
wait.
Drake that grows with the game when you cast non-creature spells.
That's true. That's true.
It's a
but
bed
like,
top
not
deck.
a
Yeah,
common.
it's a bed top deck. You need to drop it early. But
Yeah.
no, the 1/3 that turns into a 3/3 is also sort of playing that role when you can just basically.
Yeah. But like basically like the spell suite in blue like feels pretty similar to that in Dominaria United, where you have like, you know, your counter spell instead of Essence Scatter, it's the like quench variant, Bring the End, right? And then you have like the Anticipate Proliferate instead of Impulse. And then you have like Surgical Skull Bomb, like, which is basically like Tolarian Geyser, except you can't gain the life. So like it has some similar elements. What
do you think about like building decks that have like, I don't know, 10 spell bombs in them, and they just play like 12 lands, and that's how you get there in your spell density? You just cycle them. You just don't even care about playing the ability. Just like play for 1, sack for 1, draw a card, play land, play for 1, sack 1, blah blah blah, and you build your spell portfolio through that.
I mean, that sounds like you're trying to hack your whoever spends the most mana wins graph. But you're not actually doing anything.
No, you're doing, because every time you play a non-creature spell, you get effects in blue. I mean, if you have those things, which I assume that you would want to have if you're playing red-blue spells, you might actually get there. Just pure density. You want to have more spells, no?
Yeah.
I don't know how easy it will be to get 10 skull bombs also, which is another issue. But I think like the green one will probably wheel quite reliably.
Yeah. I don't see them being high picks other than maybe the blue one.
Yep.
Anyway,
I just realized that the one in the blue instant that draws you a card, it puts a poison counter on your opponent. So there is a blue common that allows you to start the poison train. Yeah, that's super sweet.
Also,
there's also another blue common. It's
draw
like
spell, no?
What?
The draw spell, doesn't it put the poison counter?
No. The blue draw spell is 3 blue, draw 3, proliferate.
Yeah.
The black draw.
No,
spell
I mean, okay, no. The other one costs 1 when you have something, when you're corrupt.
But we need to start the poison counters, right? So we need stuff that actually puts a poison counter on them.
Yeah. So Prologue, Fabius. I still think like the best plays are like uncommons in blue or like other colors for getting the poison started.
Yeah, but it is nice that there's a common in blue that is super playable that does it as well.
I don't know how playable it is. It like you don't really want to like just cycle a card for 2 mana.
I'm playing 5,
especially in
I think it's filler.
I do think that this format will be fairly aggressive, so it's kind of skeptical, but yeah.
That's why I'm skeptical of the blue as killing with poison kind of thing, unless the support is really excellent and it does half of the 3/4 of the job. And I see Proliferate as a tool to maybe deal the last 2-3 of the toxic damage rather than the main plan of how to, deal with toxic damage. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's move to red. I think the next one is red. Oh yeah, we have a slide with all the red things. Is that your mono red build, Genji?
Yeah. This is my blue-red deck. I thought blue would be a good support color here, and then I just kind of took all the blue cards and islands out.
Fair enough.
I don't know if it's a thing, but like the more I was looking at it, it seems like the oil cards play good with the oil cards, and they really want to capitalize on all that. And if you do end up in like a super red deck, like you might end up being able to play a lot of like weird oil cards that look unplayable. Like there's like a 3-mana rare that like makes like X-Wings and stuff like that. Get like trample.
That's not the weird card. That card is it's busted when you play it on turn 3.
Okay, so that card's just busted. I was looking at it as like an obscure.
Which card is this?
Urabrask Foundry.
Oh yeah, that card's busted. Right.
Yeah, it's absolutely busted.
I thought it was like not going to be good outside of like a dedicated oil.
It also gives you a death trigger every turn, and there's a bunch of oil creatures that need death triggers.
Like obviously, it doesn't do anything on defense, but it's insane offensively. Like,
but Yeah, pretty much. I just like was enamored with the amount of like 1-mana cards that the red decks can play, and I thought that there was, a lot of things going on that where if you get a lot of oil counters going early, it just really kind of like steamrolls and snowballs, I guess would be the right term. And
it's just so unlike you, Benji. The mono red deck with lots of 1-drops is just like so against your character.
Exactly. It's almost like Neon Dynasty came back to Arena today or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, I thought that the red cards could play really well with themselves. And the other thing that I noticed is it seems like with some of these cards, like the white card and stuff like that, like sometimes like the oil cards might go later if no one's in a dedicated red deck. And so weird cards like that going a little later that are super color intensive might make the monocolor decks a little more viable here and there at the right table. And I don't think it's like out of the realm of possibility, but I'm totally speculating. I've definitely not drafted this, but I'm going to try.
Yeah, I think that, like Free from Flesh looks like a very good combat trick that will go late for this kind of oil deck. That's +2/+2 and put 2 oil counters on the target creature. And that can have so many uses in this format, I guess.
But yeah, I think that pretty much, you've got the 2 burn spells that are like standouts at common. And then you've got, solid creatures throughout. I noticed this in a lot of colors that the 3-drops at common seem to be kind of glutted, and that like I feel like I'm going to want to prioritize 2s over 3s just based on how many creatures there are that I want to play at 3 versus 2. But that was just kind of a larger comment.
What do you think, Jason, about red in this format?
I'm like not very confident on red in this format. Like I like the 2 removal spells. And I like the aggressive tricks, but I don't have a good like sense of like what my red decks want to look like, I guess.
Nope.
I was also struggling because the problem is that it's sort of like everything else around revolves around toxic, and red just doesn't have any. And that's like, what do? You pick up all the cards that don't have any toxic synergies, and you just pile them together because no one is interested in them, so you get them late. Maybe that will be the power of red in this format, no?
I mean, I also think that there's just a lot of like red cards that seem just pretty strong on their own. Like I don't necessarily know what like synergistic things I want to do in red other than like some oil uncommons. But like there's like a 3/3 haste that makes a 1/1 when it comes into play. That's just really solid. Like usually you get 3/3 and 1/1 stats at common for 4 like that, but like now you get haste on top of that. Like good offensively, pretty nice defensively, making the 1/1. And there's also like the 5 and the 4/5 that like just has haste roughly. Like it enters with 2 oil.
Yeah,
and,
the
like,
4/5 haste. It's like it looks really strong to me. I
It's
don't
a
know
nice
if
curve topper up there. Look at that bad boy.
Yeah, no. Reminds
green
me of
also has
whatever.
a 5 and a 4/4 haste.
Reminds
That
me
thing
of
looks like a truck. That green card, like Toxic 3, I think.
Yeah, this one reminds me of like Crater Halion from Zendikar Rising. If you go back, that had sort of like this slight feeling of a curve topper that pinks for 2 when you play it, and then this one looks better than that. And that Halion was not a bad card. I mean, of course,
I think it was like Pyrostatic Hellion or something.
Yeah. Pyrostatic Carter Halion was a 6/6 from like way back when.
Saga. Yep.
Yeah, that's the one. What do you think about Blazing Crescendo? That's the +3/+1 trick that exiles the top card of your deck, and you can play it until end of turn.
Enthusiastic
until end of next turn. I think it's until end of next turn.
Oh, is it until next turn? Yeah. That's a very important distinction there.
I think it's going to be good.
It's Enthusiastic Study that costs 1 less and doesn't give trample. Exactly. Is that good? Probably. I think probably.
So. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like checking the Blazing Crescendo until end of turn. It's until end of turn, not next turn.
Wait, really?
Oh no, wait, no. Okay, no. Sorry. Yeah. Until next turn, you can play that card. Yeah. Okay, that has 2 different ends of turns. 2 different ends of turns.
It's definitely good. It's like a cantrip almost, with a combat trick attached to it.
Yeah, well, not for me, because I will inevitably play it after playing a land, and I will reveal a land from the top, because that's how I roll.
I mean, then you can play the land next turn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true.
Even if
saves
you fuck up, you get to find out.
This card, it's got your back.
Yeah, that's
What
Yeah,
she's
hey.
thinking about me.
The awkward thing is like only +1 toughness makes it so that it's slightly hard to like win combats with this.
Yep.
And you can't do it. You can't do the same thing you did with enthusiastic study exactly, because like study, some of its power was like giving trample. So like even if you're trading, you at least get damage through, and you're fine with that, right? But like there's some X3s in this format. You can play the like +3/+1.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. There is also like a random 3/3 menace for 3 at uncommon. That's
There's a
solid
2/3
right
menace
there.
for 3 at
Yeah,
common.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
that's
2/3
true.
menace,
That's
if
true.
you're on the
2/3
play-
trample. At common
If you're on
as
the
well.
play, it can also pink for 2. Do completely randomly if they play like a sphere.
Exactly. 2 free.
2 free.
Okay, well, I think that's enough about red.
Agreed.
Okay, green. Jason, you did this one.
Yeah, I mean, so green, mostly I am really excited about the card Contagious Vorak. I think it's the best common in the set. Like, 3 mana, 3/3 at common. I mean, like, you know, what's not to like about a Centaur Courser? But also it finds you a land. And if it doesn't find you a land, or you could choose for it to not to find you a land, you can proliferate instead. So 3 mana, 3/3 that has split card, find a land, proliferate. Like, what?
It might even kill your opponent.
I don't know why this card exists at common.
I mean, can
It
we
could cost
basically agree
4.
that this is the Centaur Courser mixed with Courser of Krufix in one card?
Yeah, like I mean, okay, Course of Krufix does draw a lot of cards, but a lot more cards. But like, what?
I mean-
I don't know why this card exists at common. Anyways, so there's also Thirsting Roots, which you could say is a somewhat similar card. I grouped them together because they both do proliferate and they both do mana fixing. Thirsting Roots being like a bushwhack variant, kind of like Lay of the Land, you know, as one mode where green sorcery, search for a basic, put in your hand, or green proliferate. You can choose to proliferate instead. And like, I think that's pretty strong, right? Like it's basically a split card like Evolving Wilds, except you have to have green and proliferate. Just replace a land with it, and you just have more proliferate sources in your deck naturally.
I mean, I guess that if I want proliferate in my deck and I'm base green, I'm playing any number of those and just playing a bunch of green lands and fewer of the other colors, so I can fix for them using this, and that's
just play like 8 or 9 forests and like whatever of your other sources, and like this will fix for you.
another way of playing like 12 lands if you're lucky.
Yeah, and like another strong card that I like is like Oil Gorger Troll, strong grindy card. We mentioned this earlier. It's 5 mana, 3/4 ETB, gain 3 life. But if you control a permanent with an oil counter, you also get to draw a card. So like somewhat like an Owlbear.
Yeah, it reminded me of Owlbear. It's like a crossover between an Owlbear and a 6/6 that enters the battlefield and gains you 6, right? Yeah, it's a bit of a in-betweener. It stabilizes you, it draws you cards.
But it does neither of the things as good as the originals.
Right? I think it's in the sweet spot.
I think overall it's probably worse than like Owlbear was, because like you do need to turn it on. But if you can consistently have an oil counter, like I think gain 3, draw a card, like the 3 life is worth like losing a power and not having trample. Like it's just
gain 3, draw a card that's basically revitalized, which is 2 mana, and then you have for 3 mana the 3/4. That's
but yeah, it's a pretty strong card, and there's some oil cards in green. I'm not that excited about most of the oil cards in green. I do like the Mana Dork, maybe like 1 mana 1/2. Well, I'm obligated to like green for a 1/2 that taps for mana in some way, but also
I prefer the 0/3. That one looks pretty dope.
I think it's a 3/3.
The uncommon.
Oh, the uncommon. Well, yeah, the uncommon is obviously busted, but like at common, this is the best you're gonna do for Mana Dorks, and like I feel like green has ways to like spend mana and want to like use mana. So like you have like tap, put an oil counter it, or tap, remove an oil counter from it to untap target land, and like it's a mana dork that plays into your oil synergies. Like it plus the troll is pretty nice, I think maybe.
Yep.
And then you also have some like toxic stuff, like we mentioned 2 mana 3/1 toxic 2 and the 5 mana 4/4 haste toxic 3. Like green has the like biggest toxic numbers, I think. Like just like creatures with toxic 2 or toxic 3 that just like you're trying to kill your opponent with poison.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense.
I'm just trying to find because I had actually a question about rules. Oh, come on. Rarity, uncommon. Okay, so I mean, of course, Armored Scrap Gorger. That's a 2 mana 0/3 Phyrexian Beast. It gets +3/+0 as long as it has 3 or more oil counters, and then tap, add 1 to any color. Whenever it becomes tapped, exile target card from a graveyard and put an oil counter on it. I mean, if you don't have a card to exile, it won't put an oil counter on it, would it?
Let me look at the card.
Because it's not
I
up to
misread
1.
the card in that case.
Because it doesn't say up to 1, which is like slightly
But it
weird
has
that they
an
didn't put
and
up to 1.
clause. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree that like if there's no card in your graveyard, then like you don't get an oil counter.
Okay, that's what I thought. So it will become a 3/3, but much later than I thought.
Yeah, but still, like
It will. I mean, it will.
you're going to be tapping it for mana like up until then, and that's really good as well. Like also, it's like 0/3 blocker is fine. Also,
Sometimes you'll have to exile your own graveyard because that's the only valid target, I guess.
Which doesn't really matter except when you're black, right?
And now we can move to the actual Archetype Skeletons, and it only took us an hour, which is, I think, a new record of the stream.
Yes.
Yeah, actually.
We rushed through.
Information dense.
I
That's
know.
what it was.
We didn't talk about a random combat trick for 45 minutes.
Exactly.
I mean, we can go back and still do it about
Sure.
the one mana Aura, which I think is going to be the best win rate card in the format, at least for the first 2 weeks.
Whoa, hot take.
Whoa.
I don't
The
think
highest
it's
win
Hot
rate
take.
sorry, are
I
you
don't
saying
think it's
highest
that
win
hot.
rate common or highest win rate card?
Common.
Okay, okay.
It's marginally worse than the Wanderer.
Marginally, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Okay, here's my hot take. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like only. Okay, no, I would be surprised if it were like that close to Wanderer, I guess. But 6 mana is a lot, 6 mana is just a lot.
6 minutes is a lot.
As Titania's command proved many times over.
Yeah, that card was horrendous.
Okay, sure, but
Yeah, it costs 6 mana.
Titania's command was green.
Yeah,
Wanderer's
okay.
white.
Just
Wanderer
play
is
your,
white.
play your Wanderer in the white green decks. Easy.
Well,
We solved
yeah,
the problem.
but that makes it like slightly more like restrictive, right?
That's why
Yeah,
you
You
have
have
Jasper Sentinel.
you have
And get
colorless
Grixis double white.
mana dork in this format in the mirror with Phyrexian mana, quite expensive
Yeah.
in life, but you still can do it. Anyway, so now we move to a skeletons, and I think it's going to be a lot of on and off switching between windows and talking about some decks. As you can see, Sander delivered most of the archetypes.
That's right.
Sorry, folks. Real life took over.
I know. I mean, obviously, your contributions don't necessarily have to be in decks. We can always count on your comments on what we deliver. I think shall we go from Azorius and then just continue from left to right? Right. This is your deck.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, like white blue is just artifacts, and it turns out mites are artifacts. So like
Yes.
things like
Oh.
Indoctrination Attendant or Basilica Shepherd or Charge of the Mites seem pretty good here for making artifacts. And I think you're probably not going to want to focus on like toxic that much because your blue cards are not going to have toxic. So like
Except for the
things like
mites.
the +2/+2 draw card is like not going to be as good. I think you could still play it like with mites, and you could maybe still play Zealot's Conviction as well, like the +1/+1 aura that cares about corrupted. But I just don't know how often you're going to get corrupted in blue white. But yeah, I don't know. It just Manable Justicar does, or Justiciar, I don't know how to pronounce that word. It does seem like a pretty good 2-drop if you're making like a bunch of artifacts every turn. And with a bunch of artifacts and mites, like Plated Onslaught seems like a really good pump spell. But yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, Plated Onslaught looks pretty like at home here. Actually, I'm curious about this one. Do you think it's going to be playable?
Yeah,
I think no. I think it's going to be pretty bad. But
yeah,
maybe like okay, in a blue-white artifact deck, like in this deck, it's like kind of similar to a combat professor, like, you know, Strixhaven, the like throws around +1/+1 vigilance, right?
Yeah,
but like sometimes you trigger it twice and it only costs 2, but you don't get the body. I don't know. My suspicion is that like not getting the body is going to be too bad. Like it just becomes too easy for your opponent to just remove remove the relevant things. But like I'm looking at it with like Malkator's Watcher as maybe something interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it because I thought that this card is different than the black one from the last set. What was it called?
Thran Vigil?
Yeah, Thran Vigil. Because Thran Vigil did nothing on the ETB, but this one actually does something on ETB, which is not completely irrelevant because you...
Also, it's a lot easier to trigger. Like, Thran Vigil is, like, very hard to trigger.
and yeah, I mean, as far as you, like... You don't have a guarantee of triggering it every turn, but with Charge of Mites, you can, or with Basilica Shepherd, you can actually trigger it twice in a turn quite sometimes, or even double spelling with the Spell Bomb and then whatever, something.
Yeah, you can also, like, you know, get some flash artifacts in there with Charge of the Mites and, like, Ambush, maybe?
Yeah. Or Chrome Prowler, even. But no, that's maybe less of a surprise because you will tap something, but, you know.
Yeah.
You can tap something and then encourage them not to attack with something else. So, yeah. All right. Well, that's yours. Let's go back to the slides.
I like this one. My blue-white was more control-y.
Wait, what am I sharing now? Jeebus. There. Stop screen, present, share screen. Oh, my God. I'm quicker. I'm getting better at it. Okay, so we have draft skeleton with the slideshow, so that's actually visible for the chat.
Ooh, so this looks like one that I built.
Yeah, it has lands in it. I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I kind of liked your like moving from the table slide to the web browser thing. I like that approach. It allowed you to like go through it a bit more.
Okay, boss.
Yeah.
Now we know why Sander is here to make me do stuff.
Yeah, well, of course.
That I clearly am not good at. Okay, wait a second. So I'm just
Sander's the reason we have decks to look at on the slides.
It is Benji's. It's a Benji's skeleton. Okay.
Maybe that should just be our approach for next time, folks. Like, not do the pasting on the slides, but just move from the table. I like it.
Definitely could.
Are we on?
Yeah. Yes, we're on.
Yeah.
Good. Benji, walk us through your...
Okay, so my main idea is that it feels like to me in this format that you want to get on the board early. And so I wanted to focus on like 2-drops with Toxic. I like the idea of curving the 3/1 for 2 in green into the Windrake that jumps a Toxic creature on 3, because you can hit them for 3 Toxic right away, and then you've got a Toxic Windrake also threatening more damage. So I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that the Signpost Uncommon really plays well in this deck. And I also thought that the rare, it might read like a constructed card, and I put it in here more so just to like comment on the fact it's still a 3/3 for 2. Like, it's just like Watchwolf or Werewolf, whatever that card is. It's just good on rate, even if it doesn't have text. So that's just an interesting card.
Well, 3/3 for 2 that also protects your other creatures.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like, it just seems solid. And yeah,
also makes racing you with Toxic impossible, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Plague Nurse, I think it's called, the 4-drop in green. I think that card's kind of slow, but it's interesting with toxic creatures because if you activate that, I believe they'll get like 2 instances of toxic on it, so it'll kind of make them hit for more. So I kind of threw one of those in just to mention that as much as anything, but I do think that it could be good in that spot in the curve. And I think if I were to build this again, I'd have a second one of the Flencing Raptors because I think that's like a big part is like jumping your big green creatures into the air and like trying to push through toxic damage. Seems like an interesting concept here for me. But yeah, that was kind of my thoughts.
Is this just basically your idea of having a 3-drop in Adaptive Spore Singer?
Yeah, like that should be like a Flencing Raptor or something. It was just kind of like looking at the curve or whatnot. Yeah, I think I had thought that card was better than it was when I first read it or something because I actually put it in a lot of my green shells. And like after looking at it, I'm like not very big on this Gray Ogre, but it's in the list, so it is what it is.
I mean, Spore Singer seems pretty fine. Like,
yeah,
proliferating. So they like give a poison counter. Sometimes you like just like get something through.
I mean, I'm sure that this is the fun part of building this skeleton archetypes. It's just basically I very often build a deck, and then while building 7 archetypes later, I figure out maybe that card would be good there, but then I'm usually too tired to go back and fix it. And I say, I'm just gonna mention it in passing while I'm talking about the archetype.
Exactly.
I'm surprised you don't have any of the white tricks here, like the Zealot's Conviction, Complete Devotion.
Is that the 1-drop instant?
There's the Zealot's Conviction is like the flash aura +1/+1 or +2/+1 for a strike when corrupted, and like Complete Devotion is +2/+2 draw a card if toxic.
Yeah. No, I think those would be great inclusions. I don't even know. I thought I had the green trick in here, but I could be wrong. And I mean, I definitely agree that, there should be some combat tricks in this green-white deck.
2 green removals.
Okay. But yeah, no, I think that's just an oversight on my part, most likely. Yeah, appreciate you mentioning that, Jason. I was like lower on this instant aura than Pawel, who thinks it's going to be the highest win rate common in the set. But I definitely would have played the 2-mana instant. Like if you have corrupted, draw a card. I think that would be a great fit in this deck.
Also,
I think at the very least, the Zealot's Conviction, the aura will be like at the very least the highest delta between like Alsa and win rate.
Okay, that's fair.
I think Venerated Rot Priest also you want to play as many tricks as you can.
Yeah.
If you put it in, I mean, obviously it's a rare, so that's a slightly different story. Okay, I'm going to look through the slides. I can do red-black because no one else did it, so I might as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just click, close this, so hopefully it will instantly remove the screen. That did it exactly. Share screen. Whew. Lots of clicking there.
Oh yeah, I didn't build a red-black deck. I don't know. Seemed like a lot of work.
I built it. I put a bunch of removal, as you can see. I put a bunch of artifact creatures that I can easily sacrifice, like the Shrapnel Slinger, for example, because I want to activate this ability on occasions. Which tells you whenever a creature or artifact you control is put to the graveyard, put an all counter in it, then I can remove 3 all counters and draw a card, basically. But I don't think like that there is like a solid build around in there. There is a couple of sacrifice outlets, like Annihilating Glare, I think is the easiest one. So I put one of the threaten effects, but because they are uncommon, I don't think that they will be like super strong in this format. There is a Cutthroat Centurion, which allows you to sacrifice a creature once, also for 0 mana, which is worth noting. And I think that that's why Awaken the Sleeper is at uncommon, not at common. What do we have here? Testament Bearer. That's another creature that you might want to sacrifice at some stage to do the Organ Hoarder thing. I thought I put this thing. It's a 6/6. I don't care about Corrupted in this particular case. I am happy to sacrifice a creature because my deck was sort of designed to be able to sacrifice creatures. So it will be useful. I put a lot of those for Mirrodin artifacts because I think that creating multiple bodies allows you to sacrifice multiple things. So there is some kind of a micro synergy in that. But in general, I don't think that I build this deck at all around synergy. I think that Charforger is just like a good raid creature that occasionally will do something interesting. I just try to put like good removal and some creatures that can do a lot of damage very quickly, like the Necrotitan, like the Furnace Strider. I put the Dragon equipment as a bomb.
Yeah,
but
that's a
I
good
think
one.
that the best, actually, if you want to build it synergistically, the best card as a rare would be actually this Urabrask's Forge, because it creates a body every turn and it sacrifices it every turn, so we will get a lot of death trigger. And Charforger is not the only thing that gets the oil counters for something dying. So you could put more of those creatures that have, whenever something dies, you get an oil counter and does something into it to make it a bit more synergistic. But yeah, I didn't have that much of a good idea on what you want to do as a red-black. And I think this is going to be one of those archetypes when it's going to be pure power rather than any kind of synergy in this set. At least I don't see it, and maybe you can correct me.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, I feel like for me, both red and black don't look that synergistic. Well, like red has some synergistic oil stuff, but I feel like and black has some synergistic like toxic stuff, but like it's kind of hard to do both of those. Yeah. I just think just play good cards, I guess.
Play good cards. You heard it first.
Yeah, I do miss the one drop, the gleeful demolition. I think that's super good in this deck.
Yeah, that would have been great, I think. But I think I was over the limit for uncommons that I set for myself. So that's the reason.
No worries.
Because I already had 7 and I tried to be at 6. So I thought, I'll be pushing it a bit. But in reality, I don't think it's going to be something that is very highly picked. So I think I could have made an example.
Rather easily get it.
I already made the exception for Awaken the Sleeper because I also don't think that this is going to be very highly picked. Right, let's close this one. Let's put it's going to be a surprise. You don't know what I put. You have to react quick. The author of the deck, please, quick, start commenting now.
Timber in chat is talking about Vat of Rebirth as something that might make that red-black deck grindy. I'm super low on that card.
I do not know what it does.
I'm also very low on that card. It's black for an artifact. Let's see if I can get all of it. Black for an artifact. It has whenever a thing you control dies, like artifact or creature, put an oil counter on it. And it has 3 and a black. Maybe no, 2 and a black.
2 and black, I think.
2 and a black. Tap. Remove 4 oil counters from it to reanimate a creature from your graveyard at sorcery speed.
That was good, right, Benji?
No, I don't know.
It's good. It was good.
1-mana artifact I like.
Yeah.
I don't like the card at all.
Yeah, no,
me neither.
4 counter sounds like a lot.
I think that if I would like to go for a build around deck with a 1-mana artifact that gets oil counters and does something menial, I would try to go with the mill one and proliferate to mill a lot.
Oh, I like the red one the best. Like red.
I like the red one the best by a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
the red one is the one that makes 1/1 goblins.
Yes.
The
that looks
reservoir.
pretty good.
That one is super good.
That's actually pretty good.
The mill one I'm also not really seeing, to be honest, but
I think
I'm here to be proven wrong,
but not good.
Yeah. No, it's not good. I just want to meme with it. Yeah, that's what I want. And then just when a person just makes fun of me, I just play Jace and finish the game. That's the plan.
Hit him for 15.
I milked 5 cards for 17 mana with this menial 1-mana artifact, but now I play Jason. You're dead. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like
the Vat of Rebirth. It's like I don't really want to like work to get 2 black reanimate a thing in the first place, right? So if I want it to be good, I want it to be like pay 7 mana in order to reanimate 2 things, then I need to see 8 things die. That's a lot of things.
Yeah, there's a common that does this and draws a card. Like, I mean, without any work. And that one you're pretty low on, right? So.
Oh, I mean, to be fair, that one only returns to hand, not to battlefield, but yeah.
That's true,
I think this one's my blue-black deck.
Yeah, it is yours.
It looks like it. There's like very few. There's like 3 uncommons. Yeah. So I don't know. This is roughly this is roughly like what I said about blue. I want like the defensive oil stuff and like instant speed package plus some proliferate, and then like I think you're going to be able to in blue black like get some early toxic in with something like Siphoner or like just prologue to Phyresis, and then like proliferate that up, get corrupted on. That's why I like Problem Picker Scourge here. Like 2/2 flying lifelink death touch is pretty strong, and like you can maybe try to like some combination of like your Siphoners and proliferating like poison them out of the game. You have like Insight, Vivisurgeon's Insight, Auguries, Thrumming Bird, yeah. And like obviously the obvious thing that you're supposed to be doing in blue black is proliferating, as you can tell from the uncommon like the blue black signpost, which just returns to your hand when you proliferate, which is pretty nice. Recursive 2/1 flyer with toxic 1 also. So yeah,
with
like
toxic 1, which is not something. So I have 2 questions for you because I mean obviously I agree with all the picks, but I have 2 cards that I don't understand just very much yet. I mean, Gitaxian Raptor, it's still I don't believe it. I will have to be convinced by the numbers that it brings. But Vivisurgeon's Insight and Meldweb Strider, I think that you're quite high on those. At least the Strider, you're quite high on those. This might be just a filler, but Strider, I saw you put it in the other skeleton. I saw you put it on the blue slide. So you think that this is going to be a real card?
It's
I think that Strider is like Grizzled Outrider in Call. Like I think it's just like a 5-mana 5/5 vigilance. I think the best way to think of it is like a 5-mana 5/5 vigilance, roughly. Like I think you'll have enough proliferate stuff to like proliferate counters, like tapping stuff to attack with it. Yeah, that might happen. But like basically, if you have an oil counter on it, that's you probably won't need to spend it to block, because the threat of activation of blocking with it is probably going to be enough that your opponent won't attack you. And if they do attack you and you like get into combat, right? Like if they do attack you, you remove the oil counter, make it a 5/5, block with it, right? Then either probably it's dying because like why else would like they make that attack, or you're eating a creature and you're like pretty happy with either of those, right? Like if you're like trading off your if you're gonna trade off your 5/5 anyways, right? It's basically as good as a 5/5. And if it's going to stick around because you ate something, well, you already got value from eating something of your opponents. And I don't know, it just seems.
I mean, I would trade a Might for a 1 oil counter from it.
What?
I would trade the Might for 1 counter from it.
Well, like, I mean, if your opponent's only attacking you with Might, you can probably block with your other creatures, right? Like, like a 5. The point of a 5/5 is it like eats a lot of things. Like
Jason, every time he has an answer.
I mean, like we saw in the removal slide, right? Like at common, there's nothing with 6 toughness. So like 5/5 should at least trade with everything, or well, other than tricks, right? And like higher rarity stuff. But I think it's just a solid body, like a solid body, that a solid big body. If you want that, I think it'll be good. I'm not sure yet if you want it, but like I don't think it's worse than. I think it's in fact better than the 5-mana 5/5 because of the vigilance.
Like my fear is you play it and you basically gonna block with it on the first turn. So it's like.
But you shouldn't, right? You want to proliferate first. You need.
Well, no, exactly. So.
No, it's like I said, like I was saying, right? Like, if you play it, right, and like, when are you going to block with it the first turn you play it, right? Your opponent has to choose to attack into it, right? Why is your opponent choosing to attack into it? Well, like maybe they're like making an alpha attack and you get to eat one of their creatures, right?
To remove the only oil counter from it, so you cannot proliferate it and make it into a persistent block.
Oh yeah, but they have to sacrifice a thing to do that, right?
Exactly.
Like,
they already traded something,
right? Like,
okay, yeah.
Or if they're attacking because they have something that can like attack through it or trade with it. Well, if you trade with it, like it doesn't matter that you.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. No, you're right.
It's as good as a 5 and a 5/5, right?
I'm just worried about like playing it on 5 and they like remove it with like a 2-mana like aura enchant. Not like the white one is about the only one. Like there's not a whole lot of things that just kind of clear it for less mana. So like I do see how it's like a reasonable defensive body because you don't care if it dies when it's blocking.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Fine.
Like obviously it has the same problems that any like 5-mana 5/5 has, right? Where like it dies to removal, right?
But no, dice removal is disqualifying. I never play cards that die to removal.
Yeah, but sometimes you do, right? Sometimes you want those. Like sometimes you just want a 5-mana 5/5.
I just don't think it matters if you like don't have a counter to proliferate. Like I don't care if I burn the counter the first turn. I think that like the card's still the card.
Yeah, and like the crew 3 like is a cost, but like you can crew crew it with something probably.
Given the size of the bodies in this format, what do you think about the 4-mana 2/5? My favorite stat line. You can ETB tapped and then you proliferate, or you can just ETB untapped and then you don't proliferate. Because I think that's like a pretty neat like collection of abilities.
I mean, I'm not a fan. Like 2/5 is a lot worse than 5/5. Vigilance is very important. Like,
I'm thinking more like for a strictly defensive deck that maybe will do some kind of proliferating shenanigans.
True, but 5 mana not add anything to the board is not great, right?
It does add, literally does add something to the board because you can immediately crew it by like removing an oil.
Oh no, I was talking about the 2/5 that enters that. Just don't take that one.
It's a 4-mana 2/5. It's not a 5-mana 2/5 It's a 4-mana 2/5.
Make
classic 2/5s are always great.
Strictly better crab.
True.
So it's better. The last time 4-mana 2/5 was good was what, like Skemfar Shadow Shade? Like
that killed your opponent.
Exactly. No, I mean 4-mana 2/5 is a pretty bad stat line throughout limited. Like it's rarely good.
Yeah.
But not many 5-power creatures in this format.
Okay.
Just saying.
You could probably get quite a few of them in your first deck.
Possibly.
Lots of Striders, probably.
I mean, okay. So to be clear, I also don't think Strider is like I don't want like that many of them. Like the second one is definitely a lot more awkward than the first because like you would have trouble crewing them. But like I think it's going to be like solid. And like not like an exciting common, but like what I'd play one of, like a grizzled outrider in call time is what I'm thinking of, basically. Like it's not a Lindworm, it's just a grizzled outrider, but like solid. Yeah,
I still can't get over the fact that it doesn't make a 2/1 with reach on hit, and that's a bit of a.
Anyways, also you asked about Vivisurgent Insight. I think that card's gonna be good. That's my hot take. Like 5-mana draw 3s usually aren't that good, but Unexplained Vision and Eldraine was actually good. For one thing, and part of why it was good is because blue had a lot of defensive options, and I think blue, similarly here, blue has like good defensive options, like Glistener Seer, like as an 0/3, for example, very similar to Eldraine, like had the like 0/4 Secret Keeper, right? So I think that 5-mana draw 3 is going to like do some work as like a one or two of.
I think that there's also going to be an unsung hero of blue decks in the Experimental Augury, which will allow you to filter that clunky draw 3 spell if you don't need it quite often.
I mean, like there's a reason why I have 2 copies of Augury and only 1 copy of Insight, right?
No.
Augury is really good. But another thing about Insight is like you really want the Proliferate to actually do something, right? Like either turn it either giving a probably you want it to do more than giving a poison counter, right? Unless the poison counter is corrupted. Like you want it to proliferate an oil counters, like make your Strider able to like activate for another turn, or put something on your Raptor, or like the best thing is like obviously Tamio's Immobilizer, right? Like make that be an icy for another turn.
Best is putting an extra oil counter on your 6/6 flyer that will kill them very quickly.
Wait, 6/6 flyer?
For 4 mana, the black one.
Wait, the blue one, right? There's also the blue one. That's a 3/3. Sorry, 3 mana. 3 mana, 1.
Oh yeah, that's also pretty good. I mean, that's just basically like usual Proliferate. They managed to figure out a sneaky way of finding +1/+1 counters that are not +1/+1 counters. I like that Drake, the 3 mana 1/1 that grows for every non-creature spells, and obviously when you proliferate, that thing can be a sort of levitating statue of the format ish.
Ooh.
Well, it's basically the same. It's just like a 1/1 flyer instead of a 2-mana nothing. And it grows for every non-creature spell that you play. And in most cases in blue, it grows by 2 for every spell because you first put a counter and then you proliferate. So it can go pretty quickly with the...
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm just like higher on blue than a lot of people because I'm higher on the 2 5-mana spells, like the draw 3 and the 5/5.
It might be very well. It's also, I think, that it sort of suits your gameplay a bit more. I think that me and Benji are more like aggro players. We don't see those kind of game plans because I don't know. At least talking for myself, I'm just not very good in executing them. So I try to avoid them because I know my weaknesses.
Mhm.
But if you know how to play them, I think that there's plenty to discover in that kind of space.
Yeah,
I don't think
definitely
that
lean
blue is
towards the aggro
unplayable
deck.
or will be unplayable in this format, even if it's going to be used by me mainly as a support color.
I think that, yeah, if blue's good, I bet the 3-mana 1/4 flyer will be like a really solid blue common that just kind of like brings the room together kind of thing. Like just kind of blocks well, can close a game out, like just seems to be a solid role player in the color.
Okay, let's move to my thing, which will be this time white-black, because I also, the one that I only did. So okay, where is it? Where is it? Share screen. There we go.
What do we got? Like toxic aggro here or what?
Guess what? It is. Toxic aggro.
Hey, that's what I would do with this archetype.
Look at that. It has Crawling Chorus, which I think is a pretty good card. It's basically a 1-mana 2/1 if you want to kill with poison counters.
Yep.
That makes another 1-mana 0-mana 2/1 for later that cannot block. Okay, slight drawback, but I think it's like super important because it gets you to the corrupted very quickly. If you play it on turn 1, if you're on the play, it can make quite a lot of damage. Even if not, that's a good body for things like annihilating glare later in the game if it outlived its usefulness. I built this deck as a sort of, I want to turbo out Corrupted. And because I want to turbo out Corrupted, I have Sinew Dancer, which is really good with Corrupted. I mean, Tapper for 1-mana tap is a really strong ability. Zealot's Conviction, I have 2 of those because +2/+1 and First Strike are a pretty good boost early in the game if you can get your Toxic quickly. There's Job on Duelist, Double Striker with Toxic, another way of speeding up getting to this. Duelist of Deep Faith, I think that this is, again, a card that's going to be hard to block in the first couple of turns. But if opponent finds ways to do that, there are Flensing Raptors, which are capable of sending something to the skies and dealing Toxic like this. And it's basically, again, as I talked earlier, I think that this kind of deck is... it's pretty important that it gets to Corrupted, but later it can kill in any way it wants to. It doesn't necessarily have to be using the poison counters. I put Skrelv's Hive as my rare. I think that card is pretty neat. What else do we have? In Scissor Glider, I think that this is like going to be pretty available, I think, at least in the beginning. But it's a 1/3 flyer. And if you have Corrupted, it pumps all the team automatically without any kind of mana investment. We've seen how good those cards are that can pump the whole team. And I think that this is not going to be an exception from the rule, especially that on its own it becomes like a 2/4 flyer, which can quickly deal the remaining damage. Also, I put the Blightberry Rat because that's a great card. If you have your opponent at 2, you attack with it at 2 toxic, at 2 poison counters. You basically attack with it and you force them either to kill it and then you get the Corrupted, or it goes in and then you have Corrupted. So damned if you do, damned if you don't. So pretty useful, and a bunch of removal to help with this kind of aggro plan because I want to play early creatures, ending my curve almost at 2, and then I can play the removal to win combat. And then I have the Vivisection Evangelist as a top of the mana curve at 5, because with Corrupted it just kills something that's pretty busted for that ability.
For sure.
I don't know. I mean, obviously you can probably build it in a more grindy version, but I decided to go for the super aggro version because I think that it's going to be, at least early in the format, quite available and pretty strong, I would guess.
So speaking of like going with the aggro version, I really wish that the black spell bomb was a white one in this deck. I think that would like really help like just push some damage through.
Yeah, and then when I think about it, probably I would also wish it to be the +2/+2 draw a card kind of spell because it's even cheaper.
That's another good point.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I just like realized after building all those decks that I was building them and I never put any skull bombs because they were not in the color pile of any sorts that I was building from.
I forgot that a lot too.
I'm going to put a skull bomb here. I mean, I put white in a couple of decks. I'm going to put a black one here. One card that I think is pretty neat is this Ambulatory Edifice, which I think is really strong in the very aggressive deck. Because, you know, like 3 mana, 3/2 is good. The pay to life shouldn't be a big cost for you if you can clear the board or if you can post-combat kill something that will be annoying later in the game.
Oh, no one has talked about it yet, but I think the white uncommon Annex Sentry, I think it's called. It's a
oh my god, that card! I love it.
I think that card's going to be busted. I think that card's going to be insane.
The 3 mana 1/4 that like Fiend Hunter.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Toxic.
I was on record in the Forest chat today that this will be one of the top 3, if not the highest win rate uncommon in the set.
Agreed.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know why I didn't put it here, but
I was like, man, it would be perfect.
It was late.
Deck. Yeah. Oh, I feel you.
I think also the +2/+2 draw card if the target is a toxic creature would be very good in this deck.
Yeah, no, that card definitely should replace the Skull Bomb, I think.
Yeah, and I really like Charge of Mites. I think it would also fit here pretty well.
It would also. I think that this is the thing with the deck. I mean, I could replace a bunch of those cards for another card and it would still be as good, if not better. And that's why I think that white is a quite
white comments
good way of starting to understand that format, because I think that there's a plethora of things that you want to have. I think that one thing that might be important, and obviously hard to say so early in the format, one thing that might be important is the 1-drops, because you want to get the couple of first toxic the poison counters quite early. And you want to have an access to doing that because you really want to get the corrupted online, and that's the main target for this early game. And then the late game is whatever life gives you to your hand. You might want to finish with the mites and toxic, and you might want to finish with just regular damage. I don't think it matters that much, but you want to have the corrupted line because so many of your cards become so much better if you do that.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to point out that like the signpost uncommon, right? The 3 white black 4/4 vigilance, corrupted ETB kill a thing, right? That points a lot to like how like you're trying to get corrupted, but not necessarily trying to kill with poison, because like 4/4 vigilance doesn't poison them at all, but is actually like pretty threatening on damage. And obviously the ability is just very good if you turn on corrupted. So like,
oh yeah, no, that's exactly
to me.
But yeah, again, I think that there will be a couple of different flavors. I really look forward to see the Archetypes data for those white decks after a couple of weeks of the format, just to see if there's like a cluster of decks that clearly want to kill with poison and clusters of decks that clearly want to kill with just damage to face. It would be nice to see if there is different flavors of the white-black. I think white-black looks like probably the best black containing archetype to me for now, because I think black is the nice support color for the white toxic in general in here, and with some decent removal that can deal with the larger threats.
I mean, I kind of like black-green too, but black-green's typically bad, so that's probably not a good take. But time will tell.
Until it's not, and it's the best archetype. Like it was in a couple of
Dynasty flashbacks.
Exactly.
I don't know if Benji knows that you could play something else than mono red in Neon Dynasty. So okay, now it's time for Benji's deck. Let's see what we get. You're going to talk about your Gruul. Are you happy about that?
Okay. Sure. Yeah. And for reference, I thought I could only do 6 uncommons, and I was like stretched, and so I have 3 rares because I thought I could do 3 rares. But I think that a lot of the
I could only play 6 uncommons, so I filled in the rest with rares.
Yeah.
But I think that
I always only do 3 uncommons, 0 rares.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I was having fun, and I think that green red in particular like seems like a deck that, like, to me, I don't know, if I'm doing oil, it's probably a lot more red, and so if I'm doing green red, it's probably just because I'm getting a lot of like high card quality in general. And so my idea was kind of like using the oil synergies and like the Jasper Sentinel type guys, the cultivators, to ramp up to like 4 and 5 drops a little faster, try to like hit them with like the 4/4 haste, I think is in this deck. I could be wrong. I was trying to put it in here. Yeah, just kind of like playing, large creatures on curve, pairing it with the red removal and maybe some combat tricks and trying to like push damage really. But I did not really feel very strongly about what Gruul was trying to do at all. And it was more or less putting cards that I think are good in the deck.
Is this going to be constructed playable? It's like basically the elf from some time ago, no?
Well, it triggers on power or toughness, so I think it'll be good. But I could be wrong.
I think the 5-drop that if you have no counter draws a card is very good in red green. Because the red cards typically come with oil.
The 3/4.
Yeah, I think it fits this archetype specifically well.
That makes a lot of sense.
One comment here is like, I feel like you probably want more 2-drops and fewer 3s because like the mana dork doesn't actually tap for mana on turn 2, so you can't go mana dork into 3-drop.
No, you make a great point, Jason. And yeah, this is probably one of the decks that I built earlier on when I was like kind of realizing like, wow, it feels like all the cards I want to play cost 3 mana. And so I know when I go into drafts, I'm going to try to prioritize 2s because it feels like there's a lot of good 3s.
Yeah, maybe the Rustwine cultivators make you sort of want to play Gyruda, sort of semi-Gyruda decks when
like
you want to have those
5s
even the 4s and 6s.
Yeah,
I see also that you didn't put the oil on signpost uncommon.
Oh wait, I have a mistake in there, by the way. I have the 6/5 reach guy. That's supposed to be the 4/4 toxic 3 haste for 5. That's definitely not supposed to be in there. That was a sealed deck.
I'm wondering what is Plague Nurse doing here?
I don't actually know. I wanted 4-drops for the 1/2s, and I for some reason think that the Plague Nurse is going to be good, but I don't know if that's actually going to be the case. But reading the card, it just reads like it's something that will be nice to me.
There's one creature with toxic, I think.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried about the toxic. Like, it's still a 3/4 with like an ability where, like, I don't know, you can take over a game with it and stuff. Perhaps it's a card that like both of the 4-mana 3/4s, I'm excited to try out. I have no idea if they're going to be good, but this is a card that just like I was reading it and I enjoyed it, so I put it in the deck. I like I said, I don't know anything about what Gruul's trying to do. I don't think it's something I'm going to play. If I were going to play it, I would just probably draft a red deck with oil because the green oil cards feel weird to me.
Yeah,
Toxic
I think that
does
this
stack.
Like when I look at it, because I didn't look at it from that mindset, I think that like Cultivator into a 2-drop into Chimney Rebel is going to be a good curve out in this deck. Chimney Rebel being the 3/3 haste that makes a 1/1.
Okay, yeah, I was like, I'm not sure what that card is, but I do like the 3/3 haste that makes a 1/1 in general, just as a good amount of material for the cost.
Yeah, I'm like less sold on Cultivator in this kind of deck because like, I don't know, it feels like you want to have Cultivator ramping later and not just like playing a 4-drop because then like the next turn it doesn't do anything and you could play another 4-drop. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I guess I'm also like slightly not sold on Cultivator in general. I want to really like it, and like I have it currently rated highly in my mind.
Super high.
Want to like it.
Yeah, indeed.
I
think typically you want to use the Cultivator, the oil ability twice to start benefiting from Proliferate. That's the thing. I would like a counter to be there, to benefit from Proliferate. It's yeah. Do you also have the same feeling?
I mean, kind of, but I don't know.
I think of it more like a one-shot ramp, but
the thing I want from Cultivator is to like pair it with the red uncommon that like puts a 1-mana artifact that puts an oil counter on something every turn.
Yes, that's sweet. That's sweet.
And like use that to like make a 1/1 every turn as well.
Does it also? It doesn't allow your 3/2 haster to stay on board, right? It doesn't make oil counters quick enough.
No, but that doesn't. But I mean, your 3/2 haster is to recharge oil, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm curious how that card is going to play out. That's an interesting one.
It's just a 3/2 haste, right? Like, I mean, the floor is pretty decent.
It's not a 3-2 haste though, because it's always leaving the battlefield after 2
Yeah,
turns.
it's like a Viashino, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
it doesn't.
instead
I
of a
thought
4-2.
so. Like if you remove the oil counters, it stays for 1 turn, but then it leaves next turn anyway.
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
So
okay,
it's
I
worse
thought-
than a Berserker if you're not
I thought it
benefiting
was
from the
just
oil.
Berserker. Okay,
But yeah,
no.
I think that this is like a sort of like 3 mana, put 2 oil counters on something, maybe attack if you have a clear attack path. And if you don't, you just like wait and you bounce it and you play 2 more oil counters on something, because actually putting oil counters matters to you more than. And probably you do it only when you like run out of other cards, and it's just sort of like ability to use your mana efficiently every turn.
Yeah.
Like
But
imagine putting those 2 counters on the evolving evolving adaptive every turn. You just grow it by 2 every turn.
Yeah, but in a deck with no oil counter synergies, it's an F, right? You're not putting it.
Yeah,
in that deck.
no, I don't think that you want to play it in a deck that doesn't have any kind of, like you can do really sick things with Spinoderm when you put counters on it every turn, because you can play around it. Sometimes hexproof, sometimes trample.
No, sure.
You can keep it in the sweet spot.
But yeah, I think that we've got the 6-5 that I was just a misclick. We've got the 3-2 that I didn't read, so clearly not my finest work here. we can move on from this one.
The Atraxa Skitterfang is also sick, right? That's the
sorry, I
uncommon
closed it.
2/2.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
It's,
I think that card's interesting. It kind of has a lot of keywords on it.
Yeah.
Which one?
It's a 3 mana 2/2 artifact creature.
Oh yeah, the one
Okay,
with the
that's really
oil.
good.
Yeah, that looks pretty good. And there is also the Oil Lord, isn't there?
Yes, the Oil Lord. Igor played
Skitterfang is
Golem.
just what's it called? The Angel prototype card, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh
it's
yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
Because wait a second, I'm just gonna do it because I actually did. I think I went all in for the oil synergies in my red green.
Yeah, your red green has like the signpost in it and stuff. And I put mine only because I had already used a lot of your decks because I didn't do them all.
So yeah, I basically put the Oil Gorger Troll because I thought it would be good in this deck because it will draw your card quite a lot. The Cinderlash Ravager because I think it can cost like 4 mana if you play it right. And then, Evolving Adaptive. Oh, I actually did put Cultivators quite a lot. And I fell into the same trap as...
Yeah, look, you built the same deck I did.
I do have Urbrask Anointer.
You've got less 2-drops than me even. That's impressive.
I have the 3-2 haste. I have the Skitterfang, which we talked about. This is the thing that comes with 3 oil counters, and you can remove it at the beginning of combat and give target creature one of the abilities, which is actually not bad. You can give something flying, which is great. Ichor Golem, which gives extra oil counters and +1/+1 to everything with oil counters. That's pretty useful.
I like that card.
What else? Oh, I still don't know if this card is going to be good or not, but if you have a lot of oil, you can make something not block for a turn.
Yeah,
but again,
that one not entering with an oil counter is rough.
Yeah,
it is a bit rough. It is a bit rough. But on the other hand, I think I completely blew it by not putting more 2-drops, cutting some 3-drops, and the problem is like lots of those oil things are just 3-drops, and that's the maybe I just shouldn't play the cultivators, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe instead I should just play fewer lands and play the thing that fetches for a basic. Anyway, This is just a side thought of some cards that we're talking about. Now we have Jason's white red. Let's see if it has any red in it.
Ooh.
No, it actually has. It has some red. That's good.
Oh yeah. Like I built my white red deck to like try to maximize on being white red and not just being white. Like I think you could build white red as just white with a few red cards. But
I think that I think that there's been cases in that stream where we built a monocolor deck and told that this is actually a white blue, but I didn't put any blue in.
My white blue deck had like 2 spell bombs.
I just wanted to emphasize like gleeful demolition. That's why I had 2 copies of it as an uncommon.
Yeah.
like
think
Gleeful
you could get
Demolition and Indoctrination Attendant, I think, are some of the stronger reasons to play to like want to play equipment, because you get to either kill your equipment, which like probably came with a 2/2 anyways, and make 3/1/1s, or like bounce it to like play it again, make another 2/2. And yeah, just I don't know, everything else is fairly whatever.
I'm really happy
impressed that you want to play Gold Warden's Helm. I think that this card
like I think if you have enough stuff with it, like it's
you just pick it up.
Yeah,
I have
you
one
can
in
pick it
my
up,
white
you can
too.
play Demolition. Like you need to have enough like payoffs for it, but it can be legitimately good, I think.
Yeah, I think that the Indoctrination Attendant, I think it's called, like the 3/4 for 4. I had 2 of those in my red-white deck as well, and I think that interaction with equipment, if this deck is good, it's going to be a lot on the back of that, because that's like a common synergy, so it's not hard to take advantage of.
Yeah, I gotta say, I completely missed that potential interaction. That looks pretty great, actually. Yeah,
I'm really excited to do it early and often. That's why I like the 2-mana red equipment. Is it's just easy to pick up and play another 2/2 with the Indoctrination 4-drop.
Yeah, just like one knock against it is just like you end up with an extra might, which doesn't have that much utility, but maybe you can equip the might or something.
Hey, you can kill a might to make 3/1/1s.
Yeah. And you have all this equipment laying around to make it into a 3/1. Like, I mean, if anyone's going to make use of a might, it's the equipment deck.
Yeah.
Or you can make them actually 3/2 vigilance that cannot block.
You can make them flying 2/1s. You could do anything.
Oh yeah, the flying equipment. I think that actually might be not bad if you go all in for the equipment. No,
I think it's reasonable
because it boosts every single equipment by +1/+0.
Yeah.
Even if it's
just
not
like
equipped.
I didn't put that much. That I tend to only put 3 uncommons in my deck, and I needed 2 of them to highlight Gleeful Demolition. So.
Yeah, no, of course you were basically
right?
pushed. You were basically pushed to play Bladehold Warwick because that looks pretty good. And then if you have 2 Gleeful Demolition, then no more space for you. I still don't believe in the white-red. I think that at least not in the way that the Wizard is trying to sell it. The for Mirrodin mechanic will.
I think red-white will. Okay, I think red-white is like something that you need a lot of uncommon payoffs for, but I think can be powerful actually.
Yeah, with lots of uncommons, yeah, I can see that happening. But that means it will not come together very frequently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it'll come together very frequently, but I think it like has merit.
Or you can just, make a white deck with a couple of Volt charges and Hex Cult slashes.
Yeah.
That also works.
Always works.
Anything for Mirrodin.
Yeah. No, but I think honestly, there are some of the cheaper for Mirrodin equipment is very good.
Yeah, the 2-mana uncommon looks pretty great. The one that gives first strike trample.
Yeah, but also the random comments and I think the cheaper the equipment, the better. To be honest.
Obviously, the 2/2 becomes much better when you have it for 2 mana. Okay, I have now. I'm gonna do my blue red because why not?
Blue red is sweet, I think.
Oh, I did a mock draft.
I don't know if my version of blue red is sweet, but I think that it has potential.
I always struggle with blue red though.
I made it against the rules a bit. Because
this is a tough one to screenshot.
I put 4 Ichor synthesizers. That's why my main plan of this deck is Ichor synthesizers.
Oh, that's my blue-green deck. I love it. Yes.
Because I think, this is like a good creature early as a blocker because the 3 toughness is not nothing. And then at some stage it's sort of like a Delver that can block in a way, if you get my drift. So I put 4 of them just to signal that, maybe not every deck will want to play that Ichor synthesizer, but if you want to play it, it can be really good. And if you can get multiples, you can build a deck around it.
Yeah, fair.
As you can see, 6 creatures, and then I have 18 other spells, which means I have 18 non-creature spells, which hopefully will mean that I can make those things quite quickly go into a 3/3 unblockable. And I have Troller Drake as well, which whenever you play a non-creature spell, you put an oil counter and get +1/+1 for each oil counter. It starts as a 3-mana 1/1, which is a bit poor. But if you can play one spell with Proliferate after that, it quickly becomes a 3/3, and you go on from there. And as a rare, I put the Mercurial Spell Dancer, which is also unblockable. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you put an oil counter on it. And when you deal damage, you may remove 2 oil counters. If you do, the next spell you play, you can copy. And then, because all those things have an ability of when you cast a non-creature spell, I put a bunch of the equipment for Mirrodin. Because they are actually creatures that are non-creature spells. So I put a couple of the 2 mana ones.
Mind is blown.
So basically, that way I can have some early creature drops, but at the same time, for late game, I can have the non-creature spells that actually put some buddies on the board. And then there's a bunch of like free from flash. That's a good trick with Ichor Synthesizer, because it basically puts 3 oil counters on top of it, so can activate them relatively quickly. Hexagold Slash is, of course, good removal. I have a couple of counter spells, even though I treat them as basically like a quench, because there is no way of getting toxic. I think that it's good to protect your things, and there is no hexproof tricks in blue or red. So yeah, I use these to counter things that target it. Experimental Augury, that also increases the density of my creatures in the deck, because I can, cast it and pick 1 creature from 3 cards. So I have a better chance of actually drawing something that can kill the opponent. Again, Barb Butterfist is also pretty good, because if I put it on my unblockable creature, I speed up the clock by quite a lot. And then Trials of Possibility, that's again increasing the density of spells in the deck. I have Distorted Curiosity just to draw some cards, but it can be also maybe the 5 mana, and a bunch of Vault Charges to maybe, deal the last points of damage into the face, or kill some pesky defenders, creatures, or win the race by killing their thing while Mile is still active. And Surgical Skull Bump is obviously a non-creature spell, also a cantrip, and a sort of tempo play. So it's like sort of weird tempo deck that relies on those Ichor Synthesizers to go online pretty quickly.
I really like this.
Yeah,
I was very proud of that one, I have to say. I really like the
The free from flash interaction. That is. I didn't think of that. That's cool.
The
free from flash interaction that you put 3 oil counters.
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's I really like the free from flash in general as a card in any kind of thing that has oil, because I think that putting 2 oil counters is in many cases worth the card, really. I still think that I should have put the Signpost Uncommon in here, but I didn't, and then I didn't feel like changing it.
It's cool though.
The Signpost is also pretty good when you put free from flash, because it gives instantly 3 counters, which you can remove and use it as a removal. Yeah.
Yeah, really looking forward to try this out.
Well, hopefully it can come together.
I'm pretty sure it can, right? I think as long as you get the multiple 0/3s, most of the other stuff is rather.
They're actually 1/3s. They are much better than that, because 1/3 does kill things, so you cannot just attack into it blindly, which will buy you some time before they go online, which is quite nice, I guess.
True.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting card. I actually built my blue-green deck, so like we should probably look at Pawel's instead of mine, because it's more or less the exact same thing, but with a bunch of the green like search for a land instance as like a way to kind of power them up and skimp on land. But yeah,
I love that card. I just love anything that's like fixing and also does something else.
Yeah, lay of the land / proliferator or whatever. Like, I think it's gonna be a fun card. And yeah, I think that this 1/3, like, it's got like the Festival Crasher vibes, where like decks with 1 or 2 of these 1/3s are gonna be terrible, but I bet the decks with 6 of them might be really good. But we'll find out.
Yeah, the only problem is that, every single copy that you play, you need to get 4 oil counters on them, which is not always trivial. But okay, if we don't talk about the blue-red anymore, we can move on to your Golgari then, Benji, because
yeah, I do like Golgari.
Because if you don't want to talk about your proliferate copy of my blue-red, then we'll talk about your Golgari, because that's the only 2 archetypes we have left, actually.
Yeah. Let's talk Golgari then, because I think that the green proliferate cards and just like toxic fatties and stuff, in combination with black having the 2 kind of aggressive 1 flyer, 1 bear toxic cards in 2, just really kind of play well.
You love those nurses, don't you?
So this is like this is the card where I'm like, I think it could be good because like you stack the toxic on top of the other toxic, and if a couple get through, like you're really cooking. Like I could be wrong, and maybe this card's gonna be totally unplayable. But early on, I'm gonna be high on both that one and the white 3/4. But I think this green signpost uncommon, like if this archetype is good, I think it's gonna be because the green signpost uncommon is good. Because the ability to give like any toxic creature death touch at instant speed makes just like blocking a nightmare for anyone ever.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen Cortico's stream, and he was quite low on it, and that was one point where I didn't agree. I think that card looks pretty good. The fact that it can give itself death touch as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
I mean, it does suffer from this, 4-mana 2/5 thing that we were talking about before. But yeah.
This is not really a defensive creature. This is a very aggressive creature. It has Toxic 3 practically when it attacks alone. And it has that can give itself death touch. So I mean, it's a 6-power creature when you think about killing with toxic.
Yep.
That's fair. It doesn't really play like a 2/5 typically would. So, but yeah, when I read that card, I was like, ooh, I'm excited to build this like green-black toxic deck. Especially the fact that like the 3/3 for 3 here is always good, but being able to proliferate instead of grab a land in the late game in like when you're trying to deal the last couple pieces of like poison or whatnot, I just think that. For a card that might be the best common in the set, it's really going to like stand out in this archetype.
Yeah, I think that the one weakness of this archetype in general is that there's only the uncommon 1/1 toxic creature.
Yeah, the one uncommon, and then like a couple rares maybe.
I was thinking about this Necrogen Rotary is probably way too much, and I thought that would be actually an excellent splash in the white-green chassis.
Oh, that's an interesting thought too.
Yeah, I think it's an absent card.
You could play some of the Search a Land or Proliferates to kind of help fix too if you don't get the Terramorphic expanses.
There you go. Now we're cooking.
Yes. Now we're cooking.
So why Titanic Growth then?
I feel like the big green creatures are typically more likely to get like a double block, and so like big stats on pumping like just kind of get over a double block more. And so that's why I thought that Titanic Growth would be good with like these creatures in particular. But again, this could be the +2/+2 or a hexproof trick or something like that. I really like the X1 uncommon, the like kind of like luxurious libation kind of vibe card that's like mixed with Snakeskin Veil. I think that card's really cool.
Yeah, that card, I love it. I mean, I can't be against anything that has Tyvar on it.
I didn't even know that was Tyvar.
It's called Tyvar Stand.
I don't read the names.
Oh, goody times. But here you definitely stacked out on 2-drops.
That's what I like about this archetype. I feel like it has a lot of 2s I want to play.
Yep.
Yeah, that looks like. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about looking at it. Maybe actually the trick that gives death touch and indestructible until end of turn, that might be actually better than Titanic Growth if you want to kill with poison.
That's a good point.
Because I don't know, maybe that card maybe is actually playable in this format. I'm not sure.
Is that that's the black common, right?
Yeah, it's a black common, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read that and thought it was unplayable, but I hadn't really thought about in the slot of like this deck actually.
Any other thoughts about Golgari?
I don't think I have too many.
Would have been cool if there was a card that had, instead of buffing a creature, it at instant speed gave like toxic 1 or 2. Is there something like that? That's would have been a cool.
There is the aura, but it's not instant, I think.
And it doesn't give Oh, you mean the black one?
The black one,
toxic
yeah.
2. No, it would have been nice if there's like a combat trick kind of variant that gives like toxic 1 or 2, like supplies. You're dead. That's nice.
I'm gonna check it quickly if I see if my Scryfall thing
works. I think there's none.
Oh, is that the blue one, Mercurial? I think Mercurial's talking about. Is there a blue
Oh, the flying one. Yes,
yeah.
The flying one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the one. Yeah, there's the blue one. Yeah.
Aspirant's Ascent.
Yeah,
that card is reasonable, right?
Yeah, I don't really want to use it to just like jump my creature.
I don't like it, but I might play it if I need an interaction.
Yeah, like it's fine as a defensive combat trick. It's probably worse. It is worse than like Wings of the Cosmos from Call Time probably. That one
Love Wings of
untaps.
Cosmos.
That one untap. But
That card was
this
a
allows
house.
you to get like 2 or 3 toxic damage in out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you have to have a heavy, probably green toxic deck, and then some blue for support, and maybe this will be a like protection trick. Actually, why we're at it, because I looked at the one card that gives toxic, as I saw. What are your thoughts about this thing? That looks like a really good raid for me, no?
It doesn't do nothing. I had read it and thought it just did.
No,
nothing.
it's like it's a weird card. I think I don't like it that much because like I don't know if I want to pay I don't know if I want to like spend a card on this, but I guess +0/+2, like +0/+1 is like nothing really, but +0/+2 actually starts affecting combats, and like the extra toxic one does.
I mean, yeah, it's like weird version of giving +2/+2 for 1 mana, which would be pretty good.
Yeah, but like the +2/+2 doesn't interact in combat.
Exactly.
But evasive threats, on the other hand.
I think it is likely fine, but finicky.
I probably will play way too much of it for all the wrong reasons, but I think that might be something with that card. Like,
Yeah, like
if I have that, imagine you play like a blue-black deck, and you have this 2/1 flyer that comes back every single time you proliferate. You put this one on it, and they really have a tough time dealing with it because there's not so many flyers that will block it in the end.
But at the same time, you could just cast a proliferate card after it dies and just replay it. Like,
yeah, no. I mean, I'm saying that it will come back, so I can re-put the prosthetic injector on it many times, basically.
Okay.
I assume that it will die a couple of times, but
yeah, I don't know. It just feels like if it gave it infect or something, but like half the time I feel like you're gonna equip this thing up and you're just gonna bounce off some blocker repeatedly. But maybe I'm just
that's my worry about it.
Like if it like left -1/-1 counters for the damage it dealt, like Infect would or something like that, I'd be like higher on it. But like if the toxic's not getting through, it's literally just not doing much.
all right. I think that this is the last archetype, and that's my version of proliferate, which is I don't think it's like anything super special in there. I'm very good at selling this thing, am I?
Oh yes.
I'm thinking about a mock draft after that. Maybe we can do a 17 land simulator or something, so that guys can give their opinion, or
yeah,
my highly esteemed guests can give their opinion, and I can sit back and just click cards. Okay, so the idea here. I also had some.
The idea is there is no idea.
There is an idea. There's 2 experimental auguries.
Ooh.
There is a bunch of Vorax. There is the Tainted Observer, which can make me proliferate. There is Azuri. Whenever you proliferate, draw a card. That's a pretty
strong.
good,
strong.
Yeah,
pretty good card in that.
Strong.
2 Mesmeric Doses that have proliferate. I have Evolving Adaptive that comes with 1 counter, and proliferate makes it bigger every time, and maybe playing some creatures. So I play it on turn 1 if I have it. Then I play like a 2-drop, then I play like a 3-drop, and then I start proliferating, and it grows with the game very easily. Or Thrumming Bird just makes it bigger every single turn. So that's the idea. I have this thing. I don't know why.
It's good.
So that it can become a 3/3 quicker because I proliferated rather than exile something from the graveyard. I don't know about the Predation Steward as a card. I mean, my thought of putting it here is that it's a 2-mana 2/2 and has some oil counters that I can use later in the game to make something bigger for a lot of mana, basically.
It feels like too much mana to me. I don't know. I don't have a high opinion of that card.
Me
neither, but I thought like, okay, I'll just give it a try because I need 2 drops, and it looks like a reasonable 2-drop at least.
I think you play it because it's a 2-mana 2/2 and not because of the text on the card.
Yeah. No, this is like
if you're adding it to a deck, which
that's gravy.
If you have better
the
twos,
ability is gravy.
Yeah.
What else did I put? Spore Singer. I actually did put it here because it can proliferate also later in the game.
Obviously.
which may be something. But I think that the +2/+2 and vigilance, if I have like those troller drakes maybe, or the unblockable things, or the thrumming birds, like a couple of evasive threats, that can be something in the later game. And I have Tamio's Immobilizer, because I think if I can proliferate continuously, that card is just busto.
Is that the Icy Manipulator?
Yeah, that's the Icy Manipulator.
Okay, yeah.
Icy Manipulator that doesn't cost mana, which is quite an improvement.
Indeed. The 0 is a lot less than 1.
I think that, yeah, this card, I really like the idea of having it, even if I don't have that many non-creature spells, but I have quite a lot of proliferate. I'm quite happy with the card. If I get it to 3/3, that's already like really good. If I get it to 4/4, that's pretty busted. And I think that it's quite easy with the set of cards. I have no idea what this Chrome Prowler is doing there. I thought that I'll put it because I think that the card warrants a mention. I think that it might be not terrible, but probably.
I had one in one of my skeletons too. Like I think it's fine filler in the right deck, but yeah, I'm not excited to play it.
It's not in this deck, that's for sure. But I put it there because I didn't put it in anything else, and I thought maybe I'll talk about it. I think that I'll actually ask what you guys think about it.
Yeah,
I think it's fine filler. I don't know. Gets better with artifact synergies, I guess.
Oh man, can you imagine they attack with their might and you just eat it and tap something for the counterattack? Whew. Small value.
Small value, that's what we love. That's what we live for. A 1/3 of the card advantage, correct. But you're still ending up with a 3/2.
Yeah.
My least favorite stat line.
Oh my gosh. The better to trade with your 2-drop.
All right. I think that covers all the skeleton archetypes. So yeah, thanks guys for giving your thoughts about the decks. I think that what I like the most about this stream is that I built my so-so skeletons, but then I get comments and they instantly become better. And I think that this is the thing that you can't do alone when you're trying to figure out the new format. It's just like you can figure some things out, better or worse, but actually having opinions of other people that think along the same kind of lines, but in their own unique way, is just the thing that makes the stream quite useful for me. And usually after the skeleton stream, I'm doing my personal stream about the primer for the new set, and boy, do I have some great ideas all of a sudden 2 days later without actually having any original thought, just by blatantly stealing what you were just saying. I mean, it's just amazing what you can get from 3 beautiful magic minds sitting and talking about cards in a format that no one ever touched a card to play. But we don't have to end there. I think that actually we made pretty good timing this year. I think we went on fewer tangents.
Yeah, wow.
This year, is this an annual thing?
Oh, this
first one of the year.
It's the first one of the year, no?
True.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Benji.
You can't argue the numbers.
Magic year lasts 3 months. Yeah, let's agree with that. And Christmas is the pre-release. That's how it goes.
True. I do love Christmas. I'm looking forward to the pre-releases. This set looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being faced with the bloody Emperor in 2 games.
Oh yeah,
that's what I predict for myself. Let's see. 17 lands. We can try to do a mock draft. Let's see.
Ooh.
1. Okay, we can do that.
Hey, G John. There. I can post that.
Yeah, if you count the Moomin Latte says at the current rate we'll have a new set every week, and if you count the supplemental sets, it kind of feels like that already.
Well, yeah, but are they real sets?
I don't know, but I was excited to draft Dominaria Remastered at the LGS, but I didn't get there in like 2 weeks, so now I don't think I'm going to.
Oh, I did one draft of the Dominaria Remastered.
Nice.
Oh,
did
I spent way too much
I think
on
I'm
singles
actually
from
gonna
that
hop
set.
off now. I should.
Sure, Jason.
I should go eat some food, and yeah.
No, food is important.
Yeah,
obviously.
absolutely. Yeah, I had a burrito right before.